All right, everybody. Hello. Hello. Once again, we are back with another little chit chat with my mom, Wendy Cicchetti, world renowned astrologer, tarot coach, you name it. This woman does it when it comes to, I believe, personal development, spiritual development, astrology, and all of this other yummy stuff. And we get to spend some time chatting about what the heck's going on in the world and what all the planets are talking about, what's all going down. But before that, make sure if you want to stay connected and get these monthly updates, make sure that you like and subscribe so that she can update you monthly. You'll actually get newsletters. In fact, you can sign up for your newsletter on your website, right?
Well, yeah, I'll have the link below.
All links are below, but
Yeah.
to stay connected. And also, before we jump in, to let you guys know that she is doing her annual holiday reading special. This is awesome. You don't want to miss it. Most of my friends do it because sometimes she'll do packages, and so they'll have a set of readings for the rest of the year. This is the time to get them. So you can get all of the specials on all of that. And if you're one of those people that needs a little extra hand, because sometimes I do too, she also does coaching. So she'll do astrology with the coaching, which is amazing. They're combined. It's called Wendy's Wisdom
Coaching.
So mom's a badass coach. So if you're interested in doing that, also special pricing on that for holidays. So check it all out. So without further ado, we are going to jump right in. So like I said, this is Wendy. If you haven't met her yet, you know her now. And what we're going to do is just, people send in questions and stuff like this. And this is where you, as you're hearing us talk, or if you have any kind of like astrology questions or anything like that, type it into the chat, because then we can use that for future stuff. And just an FYI, there's construction near my place. You might hear some banging. And there's also the World Cup, and Mexico is playing today. So you might hear some cheers. Just go along with it. It's happy time. Hopefully it's good happy time and they're winning. So let's jump right in, Mom, with some of the questions that have been brought in. So the first question is, I hear that there are big changes coming for 23. What are they?
Okay. Well, before I start, I just want to thank everybody for their patience with me, because I've been sick, and that's why you haven't heard from me. And I'm on the mend. I've been sick for almost a month now. And so that's why you haven't had any videos. So sorry about that. I know a lot of people have gotten a hold of me wondering why I wasn't doing any videos. So that's why. So they'll be more regular as we get in after the holidays and into the new year. Okay, so there are some big changes in 2023. One of the biggest ones, guys, is every planet is going to go direct as of the end of January. There will be no retrogrades for a period of time. That is so unusual, okay? And what it leads to is everything going really, really fast. When there are retrogrades, you see it slows down and everything goes slow and the energies get clogged up. But when all of them are going direct, everything is going fast. Now, right now we have 3 planets that are retrograde. Well, 2. We have Mars retrograde, and we'll talk more about that later. Now, that one goes direct on the 13th of January. Mercury goes retrograde on the 28th of December and goes direct on the 18th of January. And then I believe it's the 23rd of January, Uranus in Taurus goes direct. So, and right now, those are the only 3 that are going to be in the retrograde situation. All of the other major planets have gone direct. So that's actually good news.
Really quick, okay, so we're going to jump back in if that's really good news. Just to go back really fast, because you mentioned Mercury in retrograde, Mars in retrograde, and all of that stuff. What does that mean? Because we all hear all the time, Mercury is in retrograde and whatever. So you said, when something's in retrograde, it's slowing down. When it's direct, it's moving faster. but what does it particularly mean with those planets
Okay.
when they're in retrograde?
Well, Mercury has, the most notable reputation. Mercury has to do with communication, right? And travel and some other things. But so when Mercury slows down and goes retrograde, there are often issues with communication. So like one of the big things, if you're starting something new, which you never should in a Mercury retrograde, but if you do and you have to, read the fine print, okay? Don't skip on any of the communication. And it typically is better at the center of the retrograde and worse at the beginning and the end. Because when a planet goes retrograde, it slows down like to a standstill. So like communication's terrible. And it takes a little while, about 10 days for Mercury to be moving rapidly to where it's comfortable. And so for a week or so, it's moving fast in the center of the retrograde, and then it slows down again. And then when it stations, what they call stations direct, in other words, it's going to be moving forward again, then it's not moving at all. And usually the week before the retrograde and the week after the retrograde are called the storm of Mercury, where Mercury is moving too slow to be happy. So rather than it just being 3 weeks, it really is, for caution's sake, a 5-week process. Okay. Now, Mars retrograde is a whole different kettle of fish. Mars retrograde, Mars is the trigger. Remember that. Mars is aggressive, forward energy. It's our sexual energy, personally, okay? What we're looking for in a companion. But it's forward thrusting energy, okay? So when Mercury is retrograde, now, what happened with this, and it doesn't often happen, that because of the retrograde cycle right now that started a little bit of time ago, Mars is in Gemini. And Gemini has to do with communication. So we've got Mercury retrograde, and we're going to have Mars retrograde that has to do with communication. So Mars retrograde, as it backs up into Gemini, it's going to be impacting Pluto, and Mars is going to be impacting Mercury and Venus and Saturn and all of these other planets. Well, it triggers the energy. So when you think of Mars, Mercury, that means forceful communication, right? You think of Mars, Saturn, those are war energies. You think of Mars, Pluto, war energies, okay? So Mars retrograde impacting all of these other planets is creating a lot of stress on the planet, okay? It's all about communication. Mars could have been retrograde in Capricorn, then it'd be a whole different story. But when it's in Gemini, it's about our communication. It also has to do, Gemini is not only about communication, directly, us talking together, but it also has to do with salesmanship. Now, look what's going on the planet. It's not just selling things, it's selling ideas, selling propaganda, selling lies, okay? Selling an agenda. Isn't that interesting? Because that's what's going on right now. Selling to change our perception of truth. So watch out what you're listening to. Question everything. And I say this over and over. The agenda, what I call the New World Order agenda, they're pushing all the stops because they want this to happen. And they see people are waking up faster and faster, and so they're pushing their timeline. And I think it's much to their destruction. And that's what we want to be aware of. Is this a global agenda, or is this something that will benefit us? So that's what we need to be thinking about with Mars retrograde. So Mars goes direct, like I said, on the 13th of January, but it stays in Gemini until March. Did I say March? Mars goes direct on January 13th, but Mars stays in Gemini until March, middle of March. So Mars is going to be pushing that, communication agenda, sales agenda, through then. And then Mars will move into Cancer. And then that's a whole different thing. And we'll talk about that at that time. So the retrogrades and everything going direct, Uranus will be the last one towards the end of January. And then for a couple of months, 3 months, everything's direct and getting speedy. Okay.
Okay, now back to the good stuff. You said, and that's a good thing.
Yes. So
Okay.
what I want to do is talk about, what the planets are, how they're shifting. Okay. Now, the last couple of years, it's been a lot of air energy. Gemini's an air sign. Saturn has been in Aquarius, an air sign. It's been a predominant air sign period of time. Now, the last half of 23, there's going to be an elemental change. It's going to be water and earth. Now, we had air and earth, and now it's going to be water and earth. So on May 16th, Jupiter, which is now in Aries, and Jupiter in Aries is fiery, 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 okay? On May 16th, Jupiter moves into Taurus until May 25th of 2024. This is really good because Aries is flash fire, impatience, impulsive behavior. But Taurus, Jupiter in Taurus is really good. Remember, Taurus is the fixer. Taurus wants things to be smooth. They want a lot of ripples. They don't want fighting, okay? They want harmony and balance. Taurus is about simplicity. Taurus is about cutting out all the crap in the middle and getting down to basics. Taurus represents food. It represents agriculture. It's all about getting your hands in the dirt, growing your own food, those kinds of things. So for a whole year, as of May, it's going to be Jupiter in Taurus, and that's really good for harmony and balance. So we've got some positive stuff coming up here. And then Saturn, now this is really interesting. Saturn is now in Aquarius, but in March, Saturn moves out of Aquarius into Pisces. Now that's really unusual because Saturn and Pisces energies are opposite. Okay? Saturn is not comfortable in Pisces at all. It's considered in its fall, which means it doesn't function in Pisces. Saturn simply just doesn't function. Now, as we've learned over the last couple of years, if you've listened to my videos, Saturn is structure. It's top-down, top-down structure, from government to big business to religion to money. That's what Saturn represents. The entire pandemic was a Saturnian structure. Okay. Now, with Saturn in water, which is water like the ocean in Pisces, it's going to dissolve the structure. That's what Pisces does. That's what water does, is it dissolves the structure. So I think for the 2.5 years or so that Saturn is in Pisces, you're going to see a lot of the structures go away, dissolve. Okay, huge. Wonderful. These are wonderful things of information. And yeah, and Saturn will be in Pisces from March the 8th to May 25th of 2025. So it's 2.5 years. Yeah. So Saturn is kind of it's going to be defunct for a while, like that. Now, here's another really interesting one. Pluto moves from Capricorn into Aquarius briefly. Okay, we know Pluto's in Capricorn. It's at the final degrees of Capricorn. And so starting on March 23rd, Pluto dips its toe into Aquarius until March 23rd. No, it goes in there March 23rd until June 11th. So about 3 months. And so remember, Aquarius represents the people. Aquarius represents freedom and innovation. So when Pluto, which in Capricorn, which is the structure, and Pluto is kind of digging its heels in right now because it's at the last 3 called the anaretic degrees of a sign. It's digging in to finish its job. Well, it's the destruction. Pluto is destruction. And it's destroying all of those top-down structures that have kept us in bondage. And then Pluto goes into Aquarius. We get a taste of that. Then it'll go back into Capricorn for a period of time. And then it will remain in Capricorn until January 24th, I think, of 25. And then it's going to be in Aquarius permanently. And that's when we'll really usher in the age of Aquarius. Okay. That's when it's no longer going to be about the traditional governments that we've had that have kept us in bondage. That's when there will be freedom. Freedom of the people. And it will be much more about the people than it will be about the governments. Okay. So by the time the second half of 2023 comes, we'll have Jupiter in Taurus, Uranus in Taurus, Pluto will be in Capricorn, and all of those are Earth, and then we'll have Neptune in Pisces and Saturn in Pisces. So those are going to be the predominant energies for the last half of 23. Okay, let's talk about each one. Jupiter in Taurus, we talked about. More peaceful energy, working to secure comfort and healing, food production. Remember that Taurus is the fixer. It's trying to make things practical and usable, simple. Then Saturn in Pisces, we talked about that the restrictions and limitations will dissolve. There will also be a renewal in faith and artistic expression, much more sensitive and compassionate energies. Okay. Now, Pluto in Aquarius, and of course, that will mean more sense of freedom, like we talked about. And so people are going to get a taste of freedom. They're going to want more of it. And the other thing about Pluto moving back into Capricorn, remember, Pluto represents the seedy underbelly. Okay. And in governments, in business, in money. I mean, we are so surrounded by huge elements of corruption in every area of our lives, okay? Not just government, but, you know, business and everything. And so this has to do the secrets that are going to be revealed. And this is what everybody needs to be aware of, because some of these are already being displayed. So secrets of the underbelly in governments and government officials, child pedophilia and exploitation, sexual abuse and trafficking and slavery, money laundering, murders disguised as suicides, and the misuse of power by government and large corporations. I mean, that's just some of them. I didn't talk about the misuse of inoculations and things like that. On the positive side, this is a time with Pluto and Cap, the final parts of it is for us to stand in our truth and integrity and no longer allow ourselves to be propagandized. to be manipulated by narratives, government or business, financial, whatever it is, that we will no longer be propagandized by these entities, okay? And that we take a stand, we set boundaries, and we question everything. And so that's really good about Pluto. Remember, Pluto is the destruction of the old systems. And also, Pluto represents the dark underbelly. So we're going to start seeing more and more. And now I don't listen to mainstream media at all. I know there are people that still do. So a lot of these revelations that I've talked about are not going to be covered by mainstream, partly because they're involved in a lot of it. And so you want to find some really good alternative people to listen to that are saying the truth. They're not owned by these big, huge corporations that control the media. And, you know, they're doing it independently and they're telling the truth. And that's all I will listen to. I still question. You know, sometimes I'll hear something like when I heard about this issue with the financial situation with, what's it called? FXT or something like that. And all of the cryptocurrency, where the guy that created this company, Sam something. Yeah. He lost billions of dollars in 6 days. Billions.
Gone.
All the people who had invested in it, gone. He's still out of the country. And I saw an interview with him, and this guy's wacko. He's wacko nuts. Absolutely crazy. But point being, okay, you hear something like that and then you go, oh yeah, okay. But you wait for validation when you hear about it from other sources, not just one source. And that's what I do. You know, I hear something like that and I go, oh yeah, okay, right. And then more and more credible sources come up talking about it and you go, okay, this guy, even Maxine Waters. Now this was interesting because the whole nut about this is that the money we're giving to Ukraine was apparently being laundered and turned into this cryptocurrency with this guy and funneled back to Democratic candidates. And Maxine Waters, who is a representative here in the United States, was asked about it. And she says, oh, well, yes, we did receive some of it, but so did the Republicans. And somebody said,
at this point, it's all twisted.
It's all, like, so it's
none of it makes any, like, you know, it's like at the point now where it's almost like I want to be informed, but I also don't want to hear any of it.
I know.
It's like, but also but I also feel like it's important. Maybe it's not important. Maybe, you know, maybe it just is to me. I don't know. To know kind of like what's going on in the world. Because when I look outside my door, it's like none of that stuff exists.
Right.
This is what's so strange. It's like it only exists in that little square. But what happens in that little square, it actually trickles into your life. Like you'll see it at the pricing. You'll see it, you know, when COVID hit and we all had to wear masks and these things. Like then what you're seeing on there is actually impacting your day-to-day life and what's going on. But the majority of it, it's like, yeah, like your day-to-day when you go out and grow your tomatoes in your garden, and you know what I mean? It's like, well, and it's like this weird little world in a box, but it's affecting parts of our life.
Yeah. The average one of us, we don't have millions of dollars to be investing in cryptocurrency, you know, so it doesn't literally impact us that way. But the stock market could well.
Well, yeah, because just the trickle effects of what that's what I mean. It finds its way into actually affecting your life in some way, but it's just so interesting and finding that balance, you know? Yeah. And like, you know, it's just, I think the most important thing is to be a skeptic about everything. Like, it's like in what you said, it's that energy of salesmanship. It's like, no matter what the source is, what are they trying to sell you? what is it they're, what it, even if it's someone that you agree with,
right. Well, and look,
they're telling you something too, like,
what's going on
know?
with Twitter. And what's come out now, they've done the second dump of the Twitter files, which shows how they were censoring conservative people on there. If you haven't looked at the Twitter files, look at them. They're very interesting, and they're not complicated to read. They're very easy to read. But yeah, so like daily, we're getting more and more information. Now, remember, Misty and I did a video on the eclipses. And one of the big things about the eclipse energy is that it brings things to light out of the shadow. And that's what we're involved in. The next 6 or 7 months, we're going to be getting just huge downloads of secrets and light. And of course, Elon Musk, you know, I really respect what he's doing with Twitter. There are things that he does that I don't like, which is like his trying to link the brain to AI. I think this is a terrible idea, simply because once they get a link into our brains with this AI, they can control our thinking. And don't think they won't try it. That's
what that's what advertising is, and media. It's just programming your brain, but now they can literally just download a program instead of having to do a repetitive, like,
right.
You know, have to train our brains where now they can just literally download it.
Right. So, you know, not everybody is perfect. Not everybody's involved in everything that's good. But I do respect what he's doing now with letting the truth be known about what was going on with Twitter. So, but let's look now at Neptune in Pisces, because Neptune's been in Pisces a long time. Okay. It's at the later degrees now in Pisces, but it has to do with the health of our water. I'm going to give you a whole thing about Neptune and Pisces because it's very important right now. Our water on the planet is in jeopardy. This includes the oceans, the lakes, and city-treated water. Do not drink city-treated water, especially here in the United States and some other larger countries where they put fluoride in the water. I mean, there is so much toxin and poisons in the water. And so confusion reigns with Neptune and Pisces. You know, what do we believe? We get false info. We also get insanity. It also rules inoculations. It rules opiates and drugs. And look at what's going on in the world with fentanyl, particularly in the United States. It has to do with storytelling, fantasy, misleading, even the well-educated. Haven't we seen that in the last 2.5 years? Where even highly educated have been deceived. The structure of reality becomes vague while the veil between the dimensions and worlds slowly dissolves. So those who are waking up and have eyes to see will see beyond the illusions and the smoke and mirrors. Most of what's out there is just literally smoke and mirrors. So there is much hidden under the oceans, and this is going to be coming out soon. Watch the water. Important revelations will come forth exposing government and secrets in the water. I keep my ear to the ground on this. I'm really interested. You know,
it's interesting because I keep hearing that saying.
Yeah.
There's explosive. I'm hearing it everywhere.
Yeah. There's going to be explosive information coming out of the water that's going to reveal so much. Now, Neptune also rules oil and gas. So we will continue to see more fluctuations, you know, and manipulations in that area. So also Neptune in Pisces rules insanity. It also has to do with the savior complex. And this is huge because you can apply this to a lot of things going on. First of all, you know, when the pandemic came out, you know, it was just do what we tell you and we'll save you. Well, how long did that last? And then look at Elon Musk. Okay. Some people are saying, oh, he's our savior. Well, I'm not so sure of that. I think some areas that he's going to get involved in are going to be very helpful, but other areas they may not be helpful at all. So watch the savior complex. And it's like I said, question everything. When your government comes out and says, do what we tell you and we'll save you, go, no. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work.
Show me your track record.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty bad.
Tell me how you voting for me. Like, show me how you care for me, baby. Show me.
Yeah, and they don't have anything to take.
What have you done for me lately?
Exactly. Now, Uranus in Taurus through 2025. This has to do with, now remember, Taurus has to do with food, and it has to do with money. And so we can expect breaks in the supply chains. We can expect disruption and changes in money and in finance around the world. So there can,
what month is this?
This is from now through 2025.
Oh, this is all that's okay. This is all the stuff that's okay. The
right.
energies.
These are the things that are happening, and with the planetary energies. Now, it also has to do with Uranus and Taurus, has to do with shaking of the earth. Uranus, unexpected shaking. Okay. They've been talking about some big earthquakes, bigger than 8.0. And I think we can expect it within the next few months. I really do. So we want to be prepared for these things. We don't know where it's going to hit. Maybe it'll hit Los Angeles again. Who knows? It could be anywhere in the world, but we want to be prepared. And I keep talking about preparedness for people. You know, the best thing is to prepare for the worst. And then if it doesn't happen, you've got plenty to get you by, right? Doesn't matter. It's not going to go bad. You know, you'll have stuff to use, but do prepare and have the basics, you know, in hand.
Well, and have a plan.
A plan for the family. Yeah.
It's so like, I remember telling you this, like my friend Heidi and I, it was like after there were some earthquakes and we're like, do you know what? Like we all kind of panicked, but we don't know what we're going to do. Like when that moment hits and, you know, we've been through an earthquake and the one I was with was minor, but it reminded us that it's like, what if this was a big one?
Yeah.
Like, what are we all going to do? Like, what if communication's down? What's the plan then? Like, you know, like not just that with a group of people, but it's like, okay, what do I have in my house that if I don't have electricity, if I don't have, you know, running water, if I don't have, what are things, because you never know when anything's going to hit. But it was really great to remind us. And we did it as a group of friends, like, okay, let's create a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do we all need? And then where would we all meet if we didn't have communication? So think about that as, you know, just if there's a group of people that you can team up with that live near you, that it's not crazy to be like, hey, should we come up with a plan in case, you know? I think your neighbors might be really great about it because you're all going to have to help each other.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. And the more that we deal on local levels, the stronger we're going to be.
mm-hmm.
Dealing with local people, it's like a heart-centered, everybody's in the same boat and everybody's working together, helping each other rather than doing, you know, big government kinds of things. So it's very important that we work with local people. I would love for somebody, and I think this is a huge opportunity, for somebody to offer survival training to children. I'm talking about fifth, sixth grade. You know, how do you cook? How do you grow food? How do you survive? When the power goes out, there aren't any phones. You can't look anything up on your phone. What are you going to do? And
the biggest question is to everyone, what are y'all going to do if your phones don't work?
That's right.
Like all of us, everybody.
And
like,
somebody,
what if that, now that doesn't say it's going to happen, but
what if?
What if it did?
Yeah.
Do you know anyone's phone number.
And with what I know here with Uranus in Taurus, it's a distinct possibility that our power will go out, maybe for some people as long as 2 to 3 weeks, maybe longer. What are you going to do when the phones go down? How are you going to survive? How are you going to heat yourself? Stay warm. And so this is a huge opportunity, in my view, for someone to come to the fore and create survival training for children.
It might already exist.
If it does, that would be great. But look into it in your local areas. Get the kids off the phones, put the phones away, and have them go to some kind of training, and teach them to not have the phones in their faces all the time.
I know, hard to roll that back.
And part of it is the parents are guilty.
Well, no, because it's I'm no one. I can't say anything because I don't have kids, and I don't know what that would even be like, because I know that I don't even know. So I should just even say anything, because I don't know, because I don't have kids.
Yeah. Well, the other thing with Uranus and Taurus has to do with breaks in money. Now, the one world government globalist agenda is to create cryptocurrency that they can track.
The CBDCs.
Right. So that they know what we're spending. They can punish us if we spend on something that they don't agree with, that kind of thing. That's the New World Order agenda. All right. But I think there's going to be this battle between them trying to get this agenda versus nations owning their sovereignty and coming up with their own financial situations and currency that have nothing to do with that global currency. So it's going to be a battle for sovereignty. And as we're seeing, now this isn't in the mainstream media, but there are riots all over the world. People saying, no, we're not doing this anymore. From the Netherlands to England to France to, what's that other one? Amsterdam. All of these places, the people are revolting. Now, they don't want you to see that here because they want you to think that everybody's in agreement. No, they're not. And people are rising up all over the world to say, we don't want this anymore. So I think you're going to see more and more of these global changes, leadership changes. And there's astrological imperative for that. And part of that is Mars. That happened about 6 months ago. It had to do with Mars and Leo. That has to do with changes in presidents, changes in global leaders. And we're seeing more and more of that happening. So money, leadership, and those are real important things for us to be watching. The other thing that is with these breaks in the food chain, the weather patterns are changing. And as a result of that, I think there's going to be more famine in third world countries. Now, I just did a video with Judith in Germany, and she said it isn't just third world countries. She said there are already shortages here in Germany and in England, egg shortages and, different things. And of course, their power has just gone through the roof. So what that's going to cause is, we already think here in the United States that we have immigration problems. We haven't even begun to see it. Because if people are starving, what are they going to do? They're going to come to what they call the land of prosperity. They're going to be immigrating all over wherever they can get in because they won't have food. So that's something that's coming in 2023. So in 2023, we have a lot of good, but we also have a lot of hard stuff. So to me, it's just a scramble. There isn't any one thing that's coming that's going to save everybody, okay? you know, we're going to have to do our part and pull in the good stuff and utilize it. And anything that you can do coming from the heart space is what needs to happen. Okay. We can talk about all of these negative things, but don't base your life on them. You know, and I think awareness is good. You are aware that there are hard things coming and that there's a deep-seated dark underbelly that is going to emerge. We're going to see it, but you know, you only need to see it once and you go, can't go there, and then work on a love local community where you can create a parallel community of goodness as the underbelly is exposed and the changes happen. Okay. So that's what's going on, guys.
Holy moly. And then just keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
Love your life. Enjoy your life. The road's always bumpy. It's just what kind of bumps are we bumping over at the time? Big bumps, little bumps, but the road's bumpy. But I still think that same thing is trying to be prepared, but also just keep your joy, find your joy, turn the freaking news off, turn it all off, turn sometimes Facebook. I've started doing this.
Yeah.
I recommend this to everybody. On Sundays, I turn it all off. At least one day, total detox. That's if I don't have a workshop or something that I have to be online.
Yeah.
Just to actually take a detox for a day and just shut it all down.
Read a good book.
Yeah, just don't even everyone's gonna be fine. They were years ago when we didn't have cell phones. Everything's fine. And sometimes it's not. But to just detox, it's amazing the different perspectives, how it's just that space of not being connected to a device and connecting to nature, connecting to other people, you know, doing an activity, creating a craft, doing some art, you know, reading a book, like you said,
that's where the frequency is higher anyway.
Yeah. And that's really what we need to be doing is so much of that is keeping our frequency high.
I think it's important for us to be aware, but not to dwell on it.
Yeah.
You just don't
just where things are coming and prepare
and people
bada bang.
Well, you've been talking about stuff being revealed. Oh my gosh, there's stuff being revealed every friggin' day. But it's not in mainstream. You don't hear about it there. And we can tell you what the energies are, but we can't tell you exactly what and when things will happen. So don't think because I'm saying these things that everything's going to, you know, happen just like this. No.
But you explained last time that it's basically what sets it in motion. It's kind of what triggers it, or at least that energy is now sent out. And it's not like, oh, on this day, this is going to happen. That sometimes there'll be such dramatic alignments of planets that there very well possibly could be something on that day. But for the most part, it's just setting it in motion.
And it will happen when it's time to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't question that. A couple things that I wanted to bring up. And one is that has to do with wisdom versus intelligence. We need to think about this because, you know, it took tremendous intelligence to create the nuclear bomb, right? Tremendous intelligence. But was it wise? And I think the whole pandemic thing was a brilliant diabolical plan. Absolutely brilliant. But there was no wisdom. And brilliance and intelligence without wisdom creates insanity, doesn't it? It makes people insane for power. So everything that we look at and that we question, we go, where is the wisdom in this? Okay. And we need to be thinking about that. Just because we can do it doesn't mean we should be doing it, right? And then the other thing has to do with our schools. And interestingly enough, You know, this Mars in Gemini has to do with early education. And our schools, in many ways, schools are to educate, right? That's what we think about, is education. But our schools have become forums for indoctrination, not education. Our children are coming out of schools with very minimal skills. It used to be like in the United States that we were at the highest ranking in the world, and now we're like the lowest because our children are being indoctrinated to think about things that have nothing to do with education. And we need to be thinking about that and rising up and stopping the indoctrination and getting back to traditional education. Now that's my 2 cents on those things. Okay. And the reason that I bring it up is these children that are being born, these young people, have been born to save the world. Now, these idiots that are trying to create the global agenda, they know this, they understand it, and they're doing everything to destroy our country from within and other countries as well. It's not just the United States with these indoctrination agendas. So just my 2 cents worth. Let's get back to traditional education. Let's get to wisdom and not just intelligence. We need to know how to use in an intelligent, wise way what we create, right?
Something that benefits all.
That's right.
Okay, let me think. You've gone through all those planets. We already talked about Mars in retrograde. Another question was what was happening with the square between Uranus and Saturn?
Oh, that's a good one. You know, we've been dealing with this for the last 2 years, this square between Uranus and Saturn. And you know, it has to do with the chaos. It has to do with all of the fighting and the war and everything that's been going on. We had the last of 4 squares a few weeks ago, and the telltale energies of this will be into probably mid 2023. Okay, and then it will be over in terms of the current energetic issues that it creates. So that will be gone, and that is another thing that will make 2023 a little bit more peaceful. Okay, that won't be doing that anymore. Yeah.
Good. So we're looking for a little more peace.
Oh my gosh, yes. It's about time. And everybody just go through this winter, this Christmas, be happy, and make plans to grow your own food.
That's what I'm doing.
Plans in the spring, you know, to start growing your own vegetables. I mean, we had this big container of carrots, and my husband and I went out this weekend and pulled carrots. The tops are turning black because of the freeze, but the carrots are great. You can leave them in the ground. You know, beets too, you know, stuff like that. And we have a couple of on top of these raised planters, we have like greenhouse tops that we pump hot air into, and golly, we have parsley and celery and thyme, and
nice.
we have peppers, and you know, just all, and beets, all kinds of stuff in these little things, and we'll just keep eating on them, you know, all winter long. Oh, the other one we just and my gal picked it today is chard, Swiss chard. We picked a whole.
Yeah.
So be planning on taking good care of yourself and eating well, exercising, you know, eating food. If you can't buy it, organic vegetables, then just grow them.
Just grow them.
Just grow them.
Mom's got a green thumb. Not all of us do. Mom is a natural at gardening. Like we pretty much had a garden growing up. So mom knows what she's doing. Those of us that didn't pay attention when we were younger, we don't have those green thumbs. So if you're like me, there's lots of YouTube videos, and it's like I'm surprised at how simple it actually is. I mean, I think, you know, once you have to get your, you know, your hands dirty and kind of figure it out and make mistakes and learn from your mistakes, and hopefully people online know better than you.
Well,
But it's
preparing,
also like
preparing your
soil.
soil. Yeah, just
Yeah,
prepare your soil, and make sure it's fertilized. Do composting over the winter. Put
yeah,
all,
compost.
don't put meat in it, but you can put eggshells in it. You can put all of your leftovers that don't have meat. And when you put meat in it, it makes it smell and it draws, bugs and stuff. So you don't put any meat or bones or anything like that in it, but you just put all of your leftover produce that's gone bad, or when you're cutting something up, there's all this leftover that you don't eat. Start doing that and water it and put some good soil in it. And so you have some really good, rich compost to put in your flower beds or in your vegetable beds in the spring. And it's really easy. One thing you can do is just put bales of straw. Say put like 2 on this side, 2 on this side, and 1 on each end, and then put a rope around it. And then put all your compost in there. In fact, this last year I grew pumpkins in the compost.
I grew a papaya tree out of mine.
Did you?
Yep.
And we got 6 pumpkins out of the pumpkins that we grew in the compost.
In your compost. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So you guys get creative, get your hands dirty.
Back to nature.
Back to nature. And no matter what your plans are for the holidays, I hope they're wonderful and filled with joy, and that you're doing the things that bring you joy, and that you're happy and healthy. Yes. And we'll start the next year. And I know we'll probably do another one of these at the beginning of next year. So make sure that you write in any questions that you might have about astrology or energies, things that you might have heard, or just questions in general. And again, like and subscribe, and stay in contact with Wendy and get all of her awesome holiday specials that she's got right now.
Thank you for that. And
great Christmas gifts. Reading is such an awesome Christmas gift. Mm-hmm. Trust me, you will make any, because everybody wants an astrology reading. Everybody, no matter who they are, they ultimately really would like, with a really good astrologer, would love that type of insight. So I know I've gifted it many times to people because I know that's what they wanted. I'm like, no, that's not going to make anything happen in a reading with my mom. So my mom knows I've gifted many people readings, because it really is. It's a fabulous gift if someone is interested. But you were going to say something, Mom?
Well, yeah, I was going to say project the best into the future.
Yeah.
Visualize what you want and how you want things to be, and project that into the future. These guys aren't going to take us over. It's never going to happen. We're going to be victorious, and you need to project that into the future, so that
see yourself living a really yummy life
with all the money you need, and health and happiness. And that's really important, that we visualize those things.
Yep. Amen. Awesome. Right. Well, thanks again for that lovely chat, Mom, and answering all those great questions and letting us know what's the good, the bad, and the ugly for the next year. So again, stay in touch, you guys. Have a great holiday season, and we will see you next year.
All right. Love to all. Merry Christmas.